Hello all. In this video we are going to cover the theory part of virtual base class. Let's say we have a class called as grandparent which have a public section, and in that public section we have a method called as car, and it says this is car. Then let's say we have a class called as parent1 which is inheriting from grandparent. On the same ground we have another class called as parent2 which is inheriting from public parent grandparent. Now if we create object of this both classes, they are going to look like this. So this is the object of parent1 class, which clearly says that it has two compartments. So this is for the understanding purpose. In memory it really do not happen like this. So here let's consider this round shape is indicating the object, and it has two compartments inside it. The beneath compartment, or the lower compartment, represents the parent instance, and the upper compartment represents the grandparent class instance. Similarly, the parent2 object is going to also have two compartments inside it, its own compartment and the base class compartment. Now let's create another class called as child, which inherits from both parent1 and parent2. Now how will be the object of this child class will look like? Let's see. So this child class object is going to have its own compartment, and immediately above it will have two more compartments, one for the parent1 and another for the parent2. Now clearly see the difference between the above objects and the object of child class. The parent1 and parent2 are immediate parents class of child class. So we are not stacking them on each other. Instead of that, they are written immediately above the child class. But if you are having the object of parent class, the earlier figure shows us that the parent class objects in turn have two compartments inside them. One is for themselves and one is for the grandparent class. So this object is going to look like this in more detail. Like child class, immediately above them there are two sections, parent1 and parent2. But in this, both these two classes, objects, parent1 and parent2 objects, have grandparent instances inside it. So this is not a good case. Let's see how a virtual base class can solve it. So we will add one keyword called as virtual while defining inheritance. Now here my class parent1, instead of directly saying public grandparent, which is inheritance, it added one keyword called as virtual public grandparent. Similarly, while defining inheritance for the parent2 class, we are again adding the virtual public parent. Now what is the effect of this virtual keyword? Look at the diagram. The child class, it's an instance of a child class which have two compartments immediately above it, parent1 and parent2. But here there is a difference. In the earlier figure, the parent1 and parent2 both were having separate grandparent instances. In the latest figure, it is assumed that the parent1 and parent2 is going to share the same grandparent object. So this happens because of virtual keyword. Let's see how to implement this practically in C++. In earlier sessions, we have discussed about diamond problem and its ambiguity. We are going to need we need to recall the concepts that we have learned during that class. So let's create one class called as grandparent. Let me write nothing inside this. Then we will have two more classes. Let's call them as parent1, which inherit from grandparent. We'll create another class called as parent2. Again, it inherits from same grandparent class. And here comes the child, and it inherits from both parent1 and parent2. Or let's keep this class as again empty. Now let's try to create an object of class child obj, and this things compiles fine. So it compiled without any error, so it works. Now let's say that this child's grandparent have a car. There is a method called as car, and let's say we print you got the car is the message. Now let's as this child class is inheriting from parent 1 and parent 2, and this parent classes are inheriting grandparent class. So this obviously this child class must have access to this car. So let's say object dot car. So child class object tries to call or tries to access this car method. Now if we compile, there is one error. Let's look at what is the error. Here you can see that the error request for member car is ambiguous. So we are revisiting the concept of ambiguity of a diamond shape problem. We have learned in that class, we have learned how we can resolve this. We can use a scope resolution operator and tell this how you want to access this car. For example, in this case, I can say parent1 colon car, and now if I compile, then it works fine. Now we can run this, and here you get the car. You got the car. We can also access the car through parent2. I need to add public keyword here. I forgot to do that, sorry. So let's recompile. Now if you run this again, you get the message you got the car, this time through parent2 class. Now this is called as disambiguating the program. There is ambiguity in the program and you are disambiguating it. The same can be resolved using virtual base class. Let's say we don't want to use disambiguity, or instead of that, while inheriting from grandparent, the parent1 used one keyword called as virtual, and the same is being used by the parent2 class. Now both parents are saying that virtual public grandparent. Now look carefully, we are not using any scope resolution or disambiguity part in the main method. Now let's try to compile the program. It compiled perfectly. Now let's try to execute. It works even. So this is not making the program disambiguous. It is called as making the use of virtual base class. So your grandparent one and so your parent one and parent two classes have used virtual keyword. What it makes is it makes these two classes use the same or single copy of grandparent class. So it's like using the same if you are creating object of child class, then we have seen this concept, or we have discussed this many times, that when you create an object of a child class, it has two sections, or it is also an object of base class. Like a child class object have a part of its own members as well as the part of its base class members. In the same way, this child class have a member of parent1, have a members of parent1 and parent2, also have a members of grandparent. Now when you make this parent1 class and parent2 class make use of virtual keyword, these two classes use a single object of grandparent, and thus the ambiguity problem gets resolved. This concept is called as virtual base class. I hope you got the concept. Thank you.